All right, welcome everyone to World Blockchain Roundtable. It is episode 141. Our hosts for today are Sean, everyone's best friend, Lisa from the Mighty Lair, Greg from Rivet, and I'm Joe, founder and architect of Dragon Chain. By the way, if you guys want updates on your titles, let me know. We can change that anytime. Or your intros. I don't know what you call that, but either way,
Lisa's had enough with the nomenclatures there.
Yes.
I've had enough with what's going on in the world.
Yes, there's too much going on. Okay, so quick update before we get started on the layer ownership tokens, the governance NFTs distribution from last week's episode. There were 444 lot for every host last week. There are 166 lot for every topic contributor. Last week's theme was nominated by the great Jacob Wayne. He will receive 166 lot, and these ownership tokens come with perpetual passive income, free edits, and governance votes. Theme of the week for this week is Peace on Earth and Goodwill Toward Men Through Blockchain, nominated by I Am for I Am. Thank you, I Am for that. And essentially, we can go into the questions, or do you guys want to say anything before we get started? Nothing. All good. Okay, good deal. All right, so while I refresh, make sure you guys follow. Make sure you like the video, share it, retweet it, do all the things, repost it, whatever they call it now. And first question, I've not got to look at these yet, so I'm going to vote as we go. Dayrox. Question, let's assume that technology has solved our economic and resource problems. Everyone has everything in abundance. There are still richer and poorer people, but everyone has more than they need. There's an abundance of money, food, and energy, and no one lacks anything. Will there not be wars and conflicts then? In my opinion, yes, there will be wars, and for many reasons. What first comes to mind is religion. It's possible that the largest religions will start fighting each other. They may also establish common belief as a ground for unification to avoid or end fighting. Not everyone will agree to this, which will cause further conflict each time if the majority of the state or church imposes its will on the minority. It ends bloody, usually for this minority. However, the consequences of eliminating the minority are much greater and have the power to change the course of history. So that's kind of a big question. Talking about let's say there's no scarcity, everything else. How does blockchain maybe play into it? Are there wars? Well, you guys want to go for the simplest or the shortest or the most profound answer?
I'll try to do all of that.
Excellent.
Simplest, yes. There will still be wars because it's not about technology. It's not about blockchain. Nothing can fix what causes that. Because the premise of the question is flawed. We've had the technology to eliminate world hunger, world thirst. We have it now, and we don't use it. We've had, extreme knowledge for centuries, and it's like me and Lisa talked to. It's at the bottom of the Vatican. There's so much that's been suppressed or kept from people. So it's not like technology is going to fix things. Technology will be in the hands of the powerful, and it will be used to kind of continue how things are unless people change. It's something that what Andrew Tate said that hit me hard. He was talking about religion. Now you're talking about the question about religion fighting each other. He said that part of a religion being, because he said he was a Christian, and that he's now was more of a Muslim because Christianity is dead because no one fears it. That fear is a part of any religion, and once the masses lose the fear of that group, the religion has no power, it has no authority, it's a dead religion. He said that Christianity used to have authority. Hollywood used to run, can we release this? Do we have the acceptance of the church? Or, of like the Baptists, but not the Catholics, or the Catholics, but not the Baptists. And now it's like, people are, oh, I'm not going to make a joke about, the Muslims, but I'll make jokes about, Hindu or Christians or whatever. He said, so but when he said that, it really did hit, because it goes back to the same thing. People are kind of terrible, and they want to persecute whoever they can persecute. They look at humor, and that's one thing that I've seen with the political correctness turning into social justice and all that. The evolution of it. There were groups that it was okay to pick on or to make fun of. Like Asians are one of the last ones that you could make fun of in comedy. And then it was like fat people, and now fat people you can't make fun of. It's just it's silly. You can't make jokes about anything. So it's like I said, those problems could already be solved with the technology that we have. We've been able. I was a kid. I was like 20 something, like early 20s, and we had desalinization, where we could do reverse osmosis, clean salt water. And this is back when like hundreds and hundreds of people were dying every day in Africa from no water. Little kids. This is Sally Struthers era. For 25 cents a day, you can save this kid. And it would have taken, I remember hearing a lecture on this, 3 cargo ships with like so many desalinization things, just off the coast of like Somalia or anywhere in Africa, pumping water out and cleaning it, and all of Africa could be completely hydrated. Everyone could have clean water, and it was going to cost like $8 billion to give the continent fresh water. And it's right there. The technology's there. There's plenty of NGOs that could do that easily. That's like a couple elections to, Soros and Schwab. I mean, it could be done. Just didn't want to be done. The United Nations, whoever, no one did it. No one's done it forever. We've had the technology. Things aren't fixed. Things won't be fixed. That's it. Sorry.
That's right. You lost on the simple, but you did. Maybe. I'm just joking. Sorry. No.
Well, the simple is we're not going to fix it with technology. We already have the stuff. There will still be wars. I agree with the religion. We'll look at anything.
Okay. All right. So clockwise to Lisa while she's drinking.
What was the question? I'm sorry. No, I'm just
war.
Yeah, war and blockchain. I guess I'm kind of with Sean that I don't know that blockchain solves war or peace on earth, which I guess is the premise of today's show. But Reggie did a really cool kind of unpacking or speech on it. Somebody asked him kind of the same question, and he said, well, for like the lion to be happy, he has to feed his family, and that means the rabbit must die or whatever, so then the rabbit's not happy. And then that's the whole conversation about, we are not a democracy. Democracy is, 2 wolves and a rabbit deciding what's for dinner, all that kind of thing. So I don't know. But then we're also watching right now these wars, these fake wars in these fake countries, and what's really happening in the background in the big powers is what's happening in the banks with the money. And so maybe blockchain can fix it, because if you get blockchain in the money, get rid of the money, we don't need money. Money makes us all a slave, and that's what makes the wars. So if you use blockchain to transact, get rid of the money, and where we're like bartering with each other using blockchain, and you get rid of the corruption through blockchain, then maybe we can get rid of the wars.
If we're bartering, we're still using money. I think it's taking away the
we're not.
power.
No, we're not.
People
Not if it's peer-to-peer. Money is a third party. It is a slavery system. It is a counterfeiting humans, and it's counterfeiting human energy. Bartering is peer-to-peer for that immediate thing or item. It removes the middleman
But
or
what are you bartering
the
with?
counterfeit.
What are you bartering with?
With whatever I'm bartering. I'm bartering
that's money. That's actually
no, it is not money. Sean, I am going to come down there and wrestle you. Do not start with me this morning.
I think what you're saying is taking away the power from those people, which is currency.
No, I'm not. I'm saying money.
Okay.
The third party.
As an example, a blockchain could help you barter better without them. You could theoretically have a virtualized
peer-to-peer for that
exchange.
thing. So, Sean, I could give you this cup for a swift kick in the butt.
Yes, and that cup is money. That's the definition of money.
No, it's that cup.
Well, can that cup? Well, is the cup fun? Wait, I don't know. I don't remember. I always forget. So maybe Greg. I can tell he's champing at the bit to say something. Greg, but he's muted. Oh man, what a
funny if he's trolling us and it was muted. It was not muted. That would be funny.
No, he is muted. I can see it.
But we couldn't hear it.
It says you're muted.
It's funny.
But we still can't hear him.
Muted, but
okay, who can read lips?
This is like
what you're gonna say,
Greg's
Greg?
Worst nightmare. He can't speak and he has like so much to say.
You're muted. Can't read lips. It actually shows you're muted.
No, but I can trade like with blockchain. I could have a token representing my cup, and Sean could have a token representing his hat, and we could swap and have peer-to-pear transactions.
So I can, while we're waiting on Greg to come back, because I do want to hear what he said.
Yeah.
Particularly because I always forget about the intricacies and the definitions of money versus currency versus all the things.
Yeah,
that's what we have.
Scared of you.
Got it.
Okay, let's see.
Okay, I got it fixed.
All right. Let's hear what he said.
So here's my take. The premise of the question has to be challenged, right? But I would challenge it on the front that we can ever have abundance. One thing that is in human nature is to always want more. We can have material sufficiency to eliminate like the bottom levels of Maslow's pyramid, right? Like we can make sure everybody has food and water. What we'll get to is a place where everybody is going to need that top level. And that will be the basis for which conflict will occur, right? People will look for existential fulfillment. And one of the ways that they can do that is by seeking out these fights, right? And it doesn't really matter if everybody has everything they want, as long as some class of people have planet-sized battle stations, and another one just has like mega yachts. The mega yacht people will feel deprived. Right. They will want planet-sized battle stations of their own. So until we can joust in Death Stars of our own creation,
it's like the jokes about first world problems or whatever.
Yeah, we will get to a place, I think, though, where warfare will fundamentally shift, because we're already seeing it, right? The attacks on the American population and the European population and the Australian and New Zealand population by their own states were conducted with military grade munitions, but they were information weapons. Right, we will see war shift to a less visibly outwardly destructive mode, right? And if we can get rid of the power of the nation state, then we can at least get rid of cluster bombs and aircraft carriers and all this bullshit that nobody actually really has any use for, right? Because ultimately the bottom of the stack war is pointless. And that kind of war that causes mass death. That kind of war can be relegated to the past in the same sort of way we aren't barbarically launching flaming jars of napalm over city walls, right? We don't do that anymore, and that was highly destructive. What we do right now, though,
Friday, right,
is still pretty vile.
Like all first world people. Just fighting tooth and nail because there's only 7 TVs on sale.
Right.
But everybody wants a top tier thing.
Well,
yeah, exactly.
I want to add,
but ultimately we can get rid of war by one means and one means only. If we really want to end war, we have to adopt a mindset of not just anti-violence and anti-war, but we have to take a mindset of of cooperative trade being the way that we fight. If we can get over the idea that the way we compete with one another still has at bottom an option of taking out sticks and beating, right, or taking out guns and shooting, we can end it. But I don't think that that's necessarily in human nature. I think our nature would have to change, and not to say that we can't change it, right? Look, we're on the cusp of and this is news that I'm excited about. We'll talk about later, but we're on the cusp of fundamentally renegotiating our relationship with death.
Nice.
Where we will, we won't be able to have immortality, but we won't necessarily die of aging. So this is coming, and this will redefine our comfort with violence.
I think I am hit the nail on the head with what he said here. The only way we can change is human, like Greg said, the way that we think. We all break into tribalism, and it goes down to like the tiniest level. We have to look at we're all the same tribe, and through science fiction and other things, it's always some outside force that comes in, the aliens or whoever, and we all have to unite. The only time we're going to unite is for violence or for something terrible. We have to do it like for peace, to have a better existence. I heard something really awesome this week, that this professor took like 250 kids, gave them each a balloon. They blew up the balloon and wrote their name on it, and then they put it in a room, and he went and mixed them all up. And he said, "Everyone, go find your balloon. You have 3 minutes." And not one person found their balloon in 3 minutes. And he said, "Okay, now everybody take the balloon that you have and find the person that's name is on it and give it to them." And within like 15 or 20 seconds, everyone had their balloon. He said that's how happiness is with the human
right. Well, I mean, and ultimately,
we all work together for each other's happiness. No one will ever find it. If everyone's fighting and trying to get their own and find their own, it just doesn't work. Well, it's so easy if we all come together.
I think at bottom, the ultimate reason we will never get rid of scarcity is because we'll never be able to get rid of the opportunity cost associated with time. Right? There will always be a need to differentiate between what I can do with X hours that I have, and that's always going to be a cost. There's no way to make time purchasable for money. You have only what you have, and that's where scarcity comes in, is what our time opportunity cost is.
Something I think is interesting to note is related to scarcity, that it isn't necessarily the bad thing. Scarcity can prompt good competition, right? Good things happen because people are competing for scarce things often, and that's a way to drive humans, right?
Yeah.
One of the bigger issues, I think, is in the way that history has shown us most governments, even on the small side, will have a large risk for malevolence, right? That you put enough power in some people's hands, most people's hands, everybody knows this. And the one thing that technology could do that hasn't been tried, although I'd be willing to venture that there have been benevolent dictators, there have been benevolent kings, that probably
look at the stewards,
right? That they do treat their population as children, or as not in terms of patronizing them, but in terms of love. That I want the best for my people, right? That's a good thing. Several of oftentimes they'll have people on staff that are going to take advantage of their position and cheat and steal and kill, right? And you think about all the risks. So the one thing that hasn't been done, that with technology, various technology, blockchain included, obviously, is some level of heavy transparency. We've talked about it before, where
Right.
if you turned the apparatus of the surveillance state back on the government, you would clean out a lot of people that, whether it's through prosecution or mob violence, you would fix a lot of stuff fast, because
Right.
people would realize who's cheating
The
them.
panopticon needs to be flipped on its head.
Yeah, and whether you did it that way or not,
We're the
as an
guards.
attack on the current, but
They're the prisoners.
or if you said, hey, here's a pure new country, nation, whatever, city state, and we're going to do this, the beauty would be that for anything that is in common, where I have to trust the government to do something, it would be very transparent. You would be able to see everything happening. You would know who's actually, doing a good job, or at least trying to do a good job, and who's cheating and who's stealing and who's, actually drone killing kids overseas and stuff like that.
Well, and I think that's an artifact
totally
of a
changed
certain type of war, Joe. I think that's an artifact of nation states. I think the problem that we have, if you want to say that maybe we won't be able to get rid of war, but we can get rid of atrocity, the atrocities of mass war, I think that the scale of the political units has to come down, right? Like if we have huge nations, then we have the ability to pool resources to build, the mother of all bombs, fuel air mixtures that are almost as devastating as a low grade nuclear weapon. Like those sorts of things are resourced by the mass taxation that these nation states can exact on their populaces, and then the way that they waste it. If we had smaller political units, we wouldn't get rid of waste.
And by the way, I will say it's almost like
aircraft carriers.
I can't even. I totally agree. I can't even explain some of this stuff too, because it would take too long. At least what I think about it. That I think most people are less envious of their better off neighbors, or I think they're jealousy is good, envy is bad, if you know the difference there, generally. And I don't think having differences, although it is maybe a health metric of how disparate the rich and the poor are, that but at the same time, a lot of people who are poor, if there were a transparent means to conduct business, to do things in the world, they wouldn't likely be as poor as they are, because they would understand, oh, I didn't know that was the way it worked, because that's my life. I'd be a freaking trillionaire if I knew how the world
that way of life as
ago.
well. So like in that book, The Framework of Understanding Poverty, you have to understand, like, middle class thinks that everyone wants to be like them. And that's where we are like so wrong. In poverty culture, they value different things. There's a mindset that values different things. They think you're a simp for having, a mortgage or whatever,
or allowing yourself to be treated the way that people allow themselves to be treated when they have a traditional boss.
Right. I mean, that's like a homeless person that has different values. Some people choose that lifestyle,
right?
Because
it's called
of their
distributed
values.
living. If you want to look
So
up
for
the
us
community
to say
around it,
that,
it's kind of funny.
People wouldn't be poor because, they would choose to not be because there's resources. That may have nothing to do with it. Maybe their value system.
It's true. I can vouch for this, Lisa. A good friend of mine from college, for a while lived what he called the distributed lifestyle, where he rented a storage shed and slept in it, and he showered at the YMCA, and he chose it specifically.
And he probably looked down on you for going to work every day.
Well, I mean, that wasn't his situation. He sort of stumbled into it and he left it, but there's a culture around it that staunchly defends it as the best way to live.
Right.
Well, that's kind of the basis for Buddhism, is that the root of all. We say money is the root of all evil, but it's that desire is the root of all evil. So if you have the minimum amount is when you're going to be the happiest. because you're not worried about getting more. I think you're both right. I think people are different. There's some people who would be, that way. Some people who honestly want to do better, but don't think they have the means. Because also we have different situations just in our own country. Me and Lisa have been talking about, because the country's so big and so different, that there's someone who grew up in California, their parents were in California, and they think that, for every dollar they make, they're only going to get like 45 cents, whereas someone from, Texas or Nevada, they think they're going to get, 80 cents for every dollar that they make. So just the mindset is completely different just in our own country when it comes to opportunity. And the poverty thing, a lot of that's been engineered because people could, look at, I can have this kind of life,
Right.
where I can have my beer and circus or my Netflix and pot, and that's it. That's the best I'll ever have.
And there's something fair to the critique that the people,
and I'll be able to get this amount of money from the government or on welfare. But if I try to do any better, they'll take away stuff. So I'm gonna lose.
Right. As long as the nation state has control over money, to a certain degree, it will be used as a bludgeon to impose conformity, and that conformity is what some people resist violently.
That is, I will challenge anyone, because everybody, you get into life and it's like a game, and you understand how stuff works. You understand when you get on a plane that they're going to come down the aisle trying to get you to sign up for a credit card so you can get 100,000 free miles. You go to Disney, you have to do certain things to get the fast pass stuff. When you are about to earn something and you are on some form of state support, it's like, oh, you can't, I can only work this many hours. When I first as a kid heard that, it's like, what? It's like, yeah, if I work more than this, if I make more than this, then I don't get this. So I'm only, and it's just this. Anybody, when you
silly because they're taxing you on that.
Yeah, well, the entire freaking world is set up like that, where it's these totally artificial games that are play. Your 401k. The only reason 401ks exist, you think, oh, so I can get a tax break because they want me to save. It's like, no, they want you to put that money in the stock market so that their stock prices go up.
And they more want you handed over to central money managers. This is how they make sure BlackRock stays rich.
Yeah, it's all a freaking game, and the entire system is set up like that. And more organic forms of governance and smaller, like you said, forms would tend to produce more freedom. So that's what's needed. All right, let's go next question. Day Rocks. Wait, the first okay. Day Rocks again. Good question. Most of the computer scientists building blockchain started their computer adventure playing games. They all love Call of Duty. Do you think they all want peace? LOL. It's a joke. Okay, it's not a question. Any comments on that joke?
Yeah, I think that it's just right. Like, if we end up redirecting our war impulse into virtual people getting virtually killed, I think we've defeated the worst parts of war. This may be the way the future of war changes. If it's all information weapons, and nobody's dying in a trench from mustard gas, and we resolve our physical disputes that way, then we've solved the problem.
Can I tell you something? I mean, it's crazy, or at least would be considered. People think, oh yeah. Well, I'm sure Putin would just frame a war around a video game. It's like, it's not unheard of historically to have what do they call it when you had one-on-one. So instead of actually battling and losing thousands of men in this battle,
like a draw
choose,
or a duel.
Yeah.
You're thinking of like the you're thinking of the opening scene you're talking the opening scene from
Troy,
right? Where
yeah. I mean, that was the thing. That
Achilles shows up and stabs the guy, and everybody goes home, and nobody dies.
Same with David and Goliath, right? That was a
your champion, two champions.
Where in order to avoid losing more men, that both sides will agree, let's have these two champions fight. We're going to pick ours. You're going to pick yours, whatever the weapon is, and they fight, and that we honor the result of that fight as to the outcome of the battle. Why not do that with video games? It was like, we're going to get our best
Right.
esports team. You get your best esports team, and the winner gets the
Right.
flag.
Yeah, exactly.
know.
This battle over resources will be decided over 5 rounds of Mortal Kombat, right? With a K, not with a C.
On pay-per-view.
I'm all for it. That'd be amazing. Yeah. I'm sure. I bet we could get funding for Twitch to promote that too. All right. So then let's go next. I am for I am. Let me vote on it real quick before we even see the question. All right. Don't comment on that. Transparency question using blockchain tech. What if all charities and their bank accounts, balance sheets, and profit and loss statements were on a blockchain? What would be the benefits to society? Note this question applies to religions too. All right.
Massive.
Who wants to go first?
Yeah,
That's
that's been one of the biggest things, that getting into blockchain and crypto opened my eyes to this, to just how you can use the word crooked charities are. and most people are pissed about churches being that way. It's kind of a joke.
Even though churches are very effective charities on balance relative to the ones that are not.
You can make a church anything a church, and then get the tax benefits and all that. There's what Simpsons made. It was what was it? Oh yeah, Country Club became a religion, and then it's funny because they said, just like all religions, you became a sex cult, so then everyone's arrested. But the qualifications for something being a not-for-profit and so on, where then you find out that these people pay themselves these exorbitant salaries, massive bonuses, trips and conventions like every month to all corners of the globe, and then what's left over gets so it's like half of the money just goes to making,
right. Like how many CEOs of nonprofits
like
that are designed to end world hunger spent the money to fly on a private jet to go to Davos?
Yeah, they're like but
that's not helping
a lot of charities are run like mini governments. They're like, hey, let's get all we can out of it. Then what's left over, then we give that to the people that need it.
Right. We need PR. We need photo ops to prove that we're a charity, but that's all we're going to spend.
But can you imagine if like the Catholic Church had been on blockchain for the past 200 years? What would the world be like? You know what I mean?
No pun intended there.
Yeah, that's funny. But yeah, those are two things that I think would be so important, and that goodwill towards men and peace on earth would be served massively if charities and religion were forced to be on blockchain. Get all the tax benefits, get all the other benefits, fine, but you have to have more transparency.
Yeah.
Well,
absolutely.
That's my background professionally, is nonprofit work for, 20 plus years. So I totally agree that transparency is needed. There's a lot of the big charities have huge administrative, payouts to their top people. There was a James O'Keefe documentary or video out the other day where he's talking about Catholic charities and the human trafficking allegedly involved, and the United States government actually funding that, ironically, 400 million or something every year. So yeah, I think people would be shocked to find out just how much and where that's going, what it's being used for, and what the outcome of some of that money is. But I think there's also some really great, typically more local, smaller nonprofits that are doing really good work as well.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
Yep.
I think there's probably an element of this that I'm probably going to throw out an opinion here that some people won't agree with, but I think that the idea of a nonprofit is kind of dangerous to the idea of the charitable outcome that you're trying to seek, right? Like if you're trying to feed people, who feeds more people, the folks who run McDonald's or the folks who run Oxfam, right? Like McDonald's feeds more people, This is a for-profit enterprise that specializes in getting people food at the best price it can so that it can make as much money as possible.
Well,
I
that's
would
where people
argue-
misunderstand what a nonprofit is. It's not about not paying the people that work there.
Right.
That's where people like, oh, I don't want the money to go to administrative. No business works without paying the people that work there.
The key is
people need
how
to-
many people do
but
you
it's
want to be
not-
dedicated to grant writing, because that's one of the only ways to make money when
Wow.
you can't set up a for-profit situation where you're limited to by the optics of profiting, right? I think that ultimately we
That's
lost
from people
we
having
lost
that
sight of the
mindset
fact
that they don't want their dollars going to administrative fees. If
Right,
people would
right.
understand that the administrative have to work, so you have to feel good about paying the people that are feeding the people as much as you feel good about paying for the food.
Right.
You know,
This is why if we want a charity to work a specific way, one that doesn't involve that kind of graft, we need to define the entire pipeline before we spin one up and fund one. And our charity should only go to those organizations that we're comfortable with the overhead being appropriate. Right. And if we can see that my tokens flow in to this charity and then flow out to people that mostly deserve it.
Right.
And
see the administrative is
serve
10
the
to
purpose.
15% of what is being given in the outflow. Yeah. And then people would feel better about
that.
it.
That transparency would be huge. It would also be huge because you can automate a lot of that middleman stuff, right? So that there aren't as many administrators to pay. The metaphor I love is to put it all under a gigantic glass dome where anybody can look in and see what's going on.
Fishbowl.
Yeah, and if you can do that, then you can make sure that at a very minimum, people have to justify the actions that they take with respect to how they use the charitable donations to the cause that they're trying to support.
And among other things, the current system doesn't want that. For very obvious.
Because a lot of that stuff is slush fund shit that gets paid to warlords, right?
And we had a project called Give With Nothing. I had to look up because I couldn't remember the name of it. It was not our project. It was an outside project by someone that happened to also be in Seattle. He ended up working for Dragon Chain later, Philip Hansen, and it was essentially just that. It was a blockchain-based charitable giving platform, so that and I don't remember everything about it because it was years ago. But the SEC essentially, when they came in, they harassed a lot of projects, including this one, which is and they were like, "Guy, we just want to make a charity transparent, right?" And it was just kind of
potentially embarrassing to other charities that they are bound to support with weapons.
Yep. So they totally shut them down. Well, I mean, they had to shut down because it was like they couldn't deal with legal fees of harassment from the SEC. So they just kind of opted out. It's
ostensibly, you could supply an entirely massive charity with under collateralized loans only, right?
Yep.
Like you could literally. One of my favorites is Give ETH, which was built on the concept originally of the no loss lottery, where everybody puts their money into a stake, and only the generated interest would be used to gift to charity. And that was one of those systems that the SEC, as it stands, deems not appropriate, in the same way that they deemed certain kinds of crowdfunding efforts to be not appropriate, where somehow you have to have this structure in place where there's the stupid prospectus and all the things that cost like hundreds of thousands of dollars to put together. They demand their cut, right? You can't short circuit that with efficient new technology until we get rid of them.
Yeah, and I mean, it's hand in hand with the transparency is also governance, which would be helpful for that question, that the people who are actually putting the money in should have some level of oversight. Should almost be like a democratized oversight.
You should be able to pull your stake.
You're responsible. Yeah, I can pull my stake out, or I can say, you know what, we need different leadership because
there was a project called Munch, and I loved that project. It was you look on Twitter. Munch Token, I think, is what their Twitter handle is. But they
didn't call it Munchcoin. I feel like Munchkin and Munchcoin are such a similar word.
No, it was the coin was a donut, like a pink Simpsons donut with a bite out of it. It was and bitten into like an M looking. But it was an amazing project. The community was great. They gave, I think it was like over 1,000 ETH to charities just in a short period of time. The community voted on what charities they were going to give to. I was talking to him about giving to Lisa's charity right before things started to go bad for the last crypto winter started, and they got knocked out. But that it was everything that we're talking about. It was perfect. It was run well. The community, and they got so much done so fast, which blew my mind. But people were like, they had the little tax system was like 2% on all transfers and purchases, and so you could buy a bunch, hold it, earn. It had DeFi access to it. It was a great project, but it's gone now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is an awesome idea, actually. Very specific single purpose charities too could be a very interesting thing. I don't know if you guys are familiar with. I brought them up before, but there's this project called Party Bid, where people could, get a funding operation going, have people commit their tokens to an effort to bid up as a group and win an auction for a single high value NFT. If they won the bid, then a micro DAO was immediately formed, where the DAO buys the asset, and then the DAO exists only to manage the asset. And as soon as they dispose of it, the DAO dissolves. Imagine that for charity, right? Like you could have a charity whose specific purpose was like, we need 3 train cars full of grain for this city. The 3 train cars full of grain for village X in sub-Saharan Africa, country Y, right? And the DAO spins up, they buy the resources, they do the thing, the DAO dissolves. Because a lot of times I think the problem is institutions, once you institutionalize them, exist for the purpose of maintaining the institution more than they exist for the purpose of doing what they're supposed to do.
And all of the machinations, like let's say a cure for whatever disease, right? Obviously, it's good for free enterprise to seek that. Now they don't, though, right? And I thought that was all BS when I was younger, but now I've realized oftentimes they aren't seeking the actual best solution. They're seeking the most profitable one because it's driven by Wall Street, by quarterly.
Right. And you got to have a legal business model that gets the job done in order for free markets to work.
And imagine instead, having a charity DAO that would essentially make agreements with researchers to develop certain, they would fund research, but they would have ownership. So it would be, some shared ownership between the researcher and the DAO. And so you keep putting money in, pretty soon you hit something, and now the DAO's, that would be a valuable thing, but it's not doable. And this it's like that's illegal. You can't do that. It has to be registered. It has to be, it's like it's literally trying to save people's lives, but you can't because the existing infrastructure would be massively disrupted. That area is such, and it could be any area, but that area is so profitable that they will never let that happen. So anyway.
Well, it's crazy too because like you would think that given all the charity that does exist in the world, that we could solve a lot more problems than we do with it, right?
Well, they're not looking for cures; they're looking for treatments. That's
right. Exactly. They don't want. No company in pharma is going to try to invent a one-shot cure for anything.
No.
Because if they did, then what would they sell you?
Nope.
They'd all get fired
this is why we need to get comfortable with the idea of human enhancement, because then we can give them a profit motive to cure everything.
Yeah, there you go.
Motive is a very big, very, very good word. If everything was, people had much more pure motives. I mean, and that's one thing I try to get my kids to understand, and that I think has been lost on this generation, is that intent and motive are what's really important. And that's the lie that everyone's been sold, that it's not the intent, it's the obedience to the line. Like you can tell, like a racial joke with your friend of that race is not the intent isn't evil, but
Right.
you can have a really evil person spout a bunch of
Sanctimonious crap.
SJW stuff, and they're it's all about intent.
Right. So if their goal is to beat you up with the finery of their language and position, then they're not really being very noble.
If only people that wanted to serve their community joined the police force, we wouldn't have any problems. If people, if everyone
and in fairness, that's most
pharmaceutical
police, right?
industry only wanted to create and heal people, then we would have that one-shot drug that would cure cancer, that would do whatever. Right. That's what they'd be working.
Well, and transparency helps a lot with a lot of those things, because the people that do those sneaky things.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You need that transparency because of the bad intent. If people really had that pure intent and that's why they went into those positions and chose them. If there wasn't anything to choose because of financial reasons or anything like that, they could be like, I want to help people and I want to do this. And that's why they would choose it. You really wouldn't need transparency if everyone was just had a more pure intent. But
okay, which leads a good segue. Next question. Do you think if government spending was on a blockchain and transparent, would we see less military industrial complex spending and have more peace in the world? And what about black ops and so on and so on? Well, who wants to start with that?
Clear answer is yes.
Yeah. This is short. Yeah,
I agree. I talked with my son about this last night. We were watching, we watched some of the Tuttle Twins videos to learn, and they have a 3-minute video on blockchain, on Bitcoin. And because my son was like, well, I was hearing, like I'm watching some of the stuff and people are saying that Bitcoin is bad and they do bad things with Bitcoin. And I said, okay, so we live in Oklahoma. My kids hunt. They've hunted all their lives with bow and arrow and guns. And that's, we carry, and that's just our life. I said, so can a gun be used for good or bad? And he's like, and I said, well, a gun can kill an animal, right? He's like, yeah. And I said, is that good or bad? He's like, well, I mean, if you're feeding your family, it's good. If you're doing it just to be mean, it's bad, And so we start talking about all this. And I said, well, what if nobody knows, who did it or why you did it, And that's where, so we talked about, I said, so for years, the way money is used is let things happen in secret, and people haven't known what happened or where it went, how much there was. And then they print up more. So they're stealing it from people, and sending it over in planes to have bad things happen behind people's backs. And I said, but with blockchain, with Bitcoin, you can look on the blockchain and see where that went. Well, why is it in that person's wallet? What happened right after that with that person? Or where did it go from that wallet? And so I said, that's where we can hold people accountable. It's not going to necessarily stop a bad thing, but you could track or put some things together and kind of put those points together and maybe cause people to pause with some of those bad things.
Yep. So. But also probably help us recognize when people are doing good, and we can amplify that, right? For example, if you look at the way that, and I know that there are probably some people are going to groan when I say this, the way Elon Musk runs his companies, right? He's always aiming towards an end that is specific to advancing some benefit to humanity, right? Getting humanity multiplanetary, right? SpaceX always uses that as its lodestar. And if you look at the way that they spend their money, You may or may not see that in every single one of their transactions. But if it were transparent, we would know for a fact, right? Like we could actually look at it and say, is this serving the end they claim they're serving? There would be no two-faced lies from the PR department about exactly whether or not they're doing any good. And we could then see if they were stuck to their mission and their purpose.
It doesn't change the intent. It's just a tool, and it can be used for good or evil, but it makes the tool brings transparency. And so that's where,
well, and I'll say the transparency is important. And so is the history, because you think about it, if we knew, most governments, you know, the big things remain, what was written about, what documents remain. And, you know, we can even see from Cold War stuff. I mean, so much information is missing. You know, they can trace back certain things when things are declassified or whatever, but everything is so hidden about our world these days. And what would be amazing is, first of all, if all of the how do I say, non-sensitive stuff, you know, it's like, oh, funding for this system, this park, this whatever, was all on chain obvious. So, okay, they said they were going to spend that amount. They did. But the question, because he asked, what about Black Ops? I even think that Black Ops should be on. They potentially should be on a separate chain. I do kind of understand, like, let's say you're at war. There's a reason you're going to have to hold stuff back because the enemy's watching. And so all the people that think, oh, you can't ever do it because of that.
We have a model that proves you can.
Yeah, you can hold that there. And the beauty is what should happen, as we've seen most recently, the JFK assassination files still haven't been released multiple times. Trump didn't do it. Biden didn't do it.
Right. So, but then look at the Twitter files, right? There's an example.
Okay, let me get
classified information.
Let me finish this.
Yeah.
It should be on a freaking lockstep release pattern that by law, Black Ops have to be released within so many years. It's like, and they'll be on chain, so you know this is exactly what really did happen. So, and why? Because that will keep everybody honest, even if they know I'm still going to be alive in 10 years. I'm not going to do anything that's going to get released that people are going to say, "What did you do?" Right?
Right.
They should be out, and because if you don't do that, JFK, 9/11, all of these things get hidden forever because it's going to threaten some nation, foreign nation, pretty much, and or a 3-letter agency. And so all of that stuff's there. And when we talk about the Twitter files, frankly, that's an indicator to me that he's not totally honest about his wanting to be open, because if he wanted to be open, he would have, and
that was my point.
Yeah, he should have put that out.
That was not my point. My point.
And also, I think it also goes back to intent.
Guys, let me make a point. Glenn Greenwald not Glenn Greenwald, but Matt Taibbi went in there, had full access to a whole bunch of documents, and what did he do? He went in and he published stuff he thought was relevant. What he didn't do was go in and use it as an opportunity to dox every Twitter employee that he could get home address details for. Right? This is what their reasonable, legitimate worry is in classification, is that they'll expose some source. Right? If you had even people who would go through the security clearance process, be bound by those rules, and comb through the documents and say, you know what, guys, this is all on low. They're not doing anything sketch.
But that's still
hypothetically do that.
But like I was saying, it still comes down to intent, because I think a lot of reason why
people
those things
are
allowed to be hidden for so long is because they can manipulate people with good intent. It's like, hey man, if you make us release this now, it could cause this happen. These people could be hurt. These people could die. All these bad things could happen.
Right. But all the bad things that could happen in the world do not justify mass surveillance, right?
But see, you can talk people into things and manipulate them if they have good intent, if they care about people. You know, it's like, hey, you got to let this, then this is a necessary evil. You know, you throw that word out there and people will pull
I think it's more likely that you can spend hundreds of millions of dollars on politicians and make sure that they never vote to release that.
Well, like I said,
that's what's happening.
Intent. Right.
But
or that instead of honoring a fine, they engage in
if it was on chain and it was like, in 10 years this gets released. no matter what, that's going to be part of the decision making. And are we going to do this?
Yeah.
You know, are we willing to? We know this is wrong, but
Yep.
but we believe it needs to be done,
Yep.
and we're willing to.
And
Well, right
and
now,
for
if they
historians, it
they'll
would be
release it as soon as everybody
amazing.
who could face political consequences is dead, retired, or otherwise in jail already.
Well, even beyond that, though, why the JFK still is why it's because it's something that is perpetual.
You can remember
not
and think back. Remember Oliver North standing up and like, "Yup, I broke the law. Yup, I did it. Yep, it was right for America. It was right for you know what I mean. Just I did it, and I'll stand by it. What you're gonna do?" And everyone
we
like
need decentralized WikiLeaks, man. There needs to be no publisher.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's things like that. It blows my mind that people will consider that a transparency when they, in the case of it doesn't even make sense, except that it's not being honest that you would only let one person in. I mean, it's like of all things, it's like let's open source it. Scrub it, make sure there's no doxing, even run it through multiple levels. That way, let people in there. Is like, okay, we need to redact this. It's
blockchain plus AI can solve this problem.
Yeah, and you put it out there, and now we're going to find stuff that hadn't been found otherwise, right? I would even incentivize finding stuff. I would
because now we're just trusting Matt Taibbi, right?
Yeah, it doesn't.
Right. I was suggesting a much more like, if you want to finish the thought, the broad system I was hoping for is it should be easy for any citizen of the United States to apply and get a clearance to review these files themselves. And
I don't know, Greg, having a system run by broads, you're asking for trouble.
Have you guys ever gotten a full clearance, anything?
No, Joe, that's not normal for people.
It is.
Yeah.
It's bizarre.
They
want to know everything
for a minute.
Yeah, they go to like your
for the
neighbors.
State of Indiana, but
yeah, they go to your neighbors and scare them. It's fun. It's a funny
interesting
thing.
Yeah,
I've gotten calls from old friends and stuff. It's like, what'd you do? Stuff like that. And it's weird though, because they take all of that info and they put it in an extremely unsecure, now known to be compromised system, so that the people who are handling the most sensitive data in the U.S. government
are the most compromised.
Because they're doxed to enemy nation states, or at least possible.
Right. But the people who have the darkest secrets had to go on Epstein's plane first.
And I will tell you, it's a weird process, because they have typically retired FBI agents that go and do the interviews, and sometimes they're much older than you would expect, and they're always nice and stuff, but
anytime I had any connection with it was military, and both in for myself, but then I remember I was 14, and they came to my house, CID, and my parents are freaked out, like, why you want to talk to my son? And they're like, oh, it's about a clear. And then it was the dude I mowed a lawn for, my neighbor 2 houses down, was a captain, and he was getting moved up into like ultra security. And they were interviewing me, how much money he gave me, and wanted to know like what I knew about him, his this secret stuff. Yeah. And I was a kid. It was so weird.
Yeah. Well, it's really weird, because they want you to fit into their the slots. They don't want, because I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a nerd. I build stuff. I do stuff, and so I have resume that's overlapping positions.
Right. If you've ever committed to an open source software project,
you can't do this. And I'm like, wait, do you want me to lie about when I did this thing? And they're like, well, no, I'm not saying that, but it doesn't. It's just such a weird thing, because that whole process.
It is strange. Now that you say that, we had a friend that he was in the military, and they came the friend didn't warn me. I don't know if he even knew, but this old guy came to the house and was asking about our military friend. And one of the things he asked was like, what would make him vulnerable? Like, what does he love the most? What would compromise him? And I was like, okay, do I tell him what am I like betraying my friend? Because if I say like, oh yeah, he loves his children, he would do anything for his children, and they go, great, we're going to go kidnap his children now. Yeah. I mean, like, it was a really strange position to be in. do you tell this stranger who just showed up at your house that's asking questions about your friend, who he says, hey, I'm here from the government, I'm here to help, you know? Or do you be loyal to your friend and like not talk about them to
And they have
this
to make an
stranger that
assessment,
just showed up? It's
and they
a
have to make an
very
assessment about how open they think you were as well to decide,
we
like
do that.
whether or not they're going to also approach your relatives and say, is she an honest person?
Yep, and it's all
She
on
tell me,
pencil and paper,
right?
so it's all written. It's all written down.
It's very weird.
They'll thank you someday.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I know. I've been interviewed for a lot of them too, of course, for the same way, and it's always interesting, right? Because they'll ask you stuff that you wouldn't think they'd ask. I'm like, oh, okay. Anyway, so that's all of the questions.
Oh, wow.
That's the end of the questions. We had 2 questions. We had 4 questions from 2 people, right? So, but we had 2 of them were duplicates, so that's awesome. Let's see here. What else? And I have to tell you, so we'll go to current events now. Is that good?
Yeah, sure.
I don't have any memes set up, so I'll try to get some as we go. I didn't have time to put stuff together from the past week. So, but I do have what Greg shared. If you want to start with that, this age reversing.
Yeah, this is incredible. This is, and I've been tracking this research for a while. I can explain in detail how it works.
Cool. Let's go.
But roughly, what's awesome about this? So in 2016, so actually back, you guys remember back when they banned embryonic stem cells in the Bush administration?
Yeah, it was some like quasi weird.
Right.
Yeah,
the idea was like, we can't be researching on this because sanctity of life. We can't be harvesting these cells. We don't want to create a market in this. God forbid, right? For basically saying that, like, if only we could have more dead babies, we could have more stem cells, right? We don't want that to exist as a market pressure in society. That would be an anti-pattern. So there was this huge debate over it, and then the debate was short-circuited by this discovery of induced pluripotency, which is where you can take any cell and force it back into a state where it's a stem cell. That was the first step to this. What it was doing was it was erasing epigenetic marks that differentiated the cell and sent it back to its stem state. And at first they were like, did we just discover the secret to de-aging cells, right? And they did some tests and found out actually we're giving people massive cancers. We de-differentiate their cells. Yeah, it does age them backwards. It just does too far. So a couple of folks kept working with it. In 2016, they had a breakthrough where they would pulse the activation of these genetic marks called the Yamanaka factors, and it would rewind the aging in mice very effectively, right? Like you could actually take an old mouse, hit it with this cell therapy, and the basic idea was like, we're going to make it so the Yamanaka factors activate when we feed the mice water with doxycycline in it. And it would kick on, and they'd eventually start showing signs of being young again, to the point where they could reverse age a mouse, right? Problem was, there's no way to do this in people without monkeying with the internals of cells, right? This is a therapeutic path that has not been tested, that has not really had a lot. I mean, I guess there's been one mass test on this, which we didn't all very much like. The vax, so to speak, was that kind of tech. Well, these guys, David Sinclair's group, figured out, okay, so if we got this technique figured out, what if we found some small molecules that we could use to give people a drug that would have the same effect? They used AI to find 6 small molecule cocktails that have that effect. So what they've done is test the compound in a petri dish. Next phase is to test it in actual mice. If it has the same effect, they'll move quickly to human trials. And based on what we know about how this works, if you read into the details of the research paper, which I won't go into here because it's not super relatable, like you can't really, if I started doing that, people would tune out. But it's very, I have a strong prediction that it's going to work very, very much the same, because that's what we've seen so far with the details of how it's been applied. Which would put us about 5 to 10 years out from a thing that we can take, a pill that we can take for 4 days that will set your age back 20 years every time you run a course of it.
So you could wait to take it until everybody else does first, right? 'Cause I don't know if I
he's
trust
fine.
this guy. If this
Yeah.
guy, I'm
I
sure.
was gonna say after the great infection, I don't think
David
anybody
Sinclair
trusts big pharma.
is a personal acquaintance and friend. I got to know him after I saw the
I would
research.
say
I
he
actually hit
looks
him
like
up.
I liked it.
He's actually a good dude.
I've heard about him too. Yeah.
He's got a couple Joe Rogan episodes too. If you guys want to go
Oh,
get to know
nice.
I
him
don't
really
know
well.
him, and I don't trust him. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, fair enough. You shouldn't, but
Yeah, but that's the thing, though. If it reverses it by 20 years, then you can wait and make sure it works. So,
right,
all
absolutely.
like everybody becomes babies. Oh my gosh. Anyway,
Well, the way that it will work with these small molecule drugs they found is actually it caps it off at cells that are showing signs of aging.
nice.
The ones they discovered are not capable of rewinding the factors all the way.
Speaking of rewinding,
So it's pretty cool. And I think that when we have a situation where human beings have to redefine their relationship with death, where it's not you're on a clock and it's running down and it ends, and it's more like, what if I get in a car accident or we start a war or a meteor hits us? Right. Those are the ways people will die in accidents still all the time. Right. This doesn't fix that. People die of disease. This doesn't fix that.
oh, but
So what it does
subscription
fix
airbag
is
close
the
will.
timer on life, right? You don't have limited, like it won't be 80 years. It'll be however many years you decide. As long as you don't get in an accident or blow up or get shot or whatever. I think that will maybe change our relationship towards war too.
There was a movie with Goldie Hawn and somebody else, and basically it was like that. They kept living forever, and so they needed these like plastic surgeons because like their body parts would get messed up, but you were still alive. Do you remember that movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is different.
Meryl Streep and Goldie Hawn.
Yeah.
And
this isn't a way to extend lifespan. This is a way to reduce cellular age. So it's more like youth equals longevity as opposed to longevity, but we have to figure out youth separately.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting. I have a can I go woo since we're already going there science?
It's not woo.
Last week, we did the GTA talk, and then I was in school or doing homeschool with Cannon, and this week's history like memorization thing is about tycoons, and it says like Rockefeller. Oh, I don't have it memorized. I'll have to go ask Cannon. I think I put it in our chat though. The this week's history thing. Rockefeller, somebody, and Swift were some of the tycoons that did all this stuff for hold on. I know I posted it in here with us. Our group, here it is. Rockefeller tycoons. During the late 1800s, tycoons like Vanderbilt, Rockefeller, Carnegie, and Swift fueled the nation's industrial age by developing American resources. And so I thought, man, I've never heard of Swift being one of the founding tycoons of America. And now there's all this Swift
That's
with Taylor Swift and the football game and whatever. But are they using that to mask what's going on in the banking system? So I start looking up Swift and who it's Gustafson Swift. And it gives me this, the first thing I look up is this poem. The first like entrance is this poem about Swift Dam. And it's a poem like about Montana in 1964. And there's a mention of Grand Theft Auto in there too. But it's talking about, it kind of sounds like the banking system, but coming out of maritime law and then flooding, like releasing the bad funds and giving the money back to we the people. It's like super, there was this whole like weird, strange thing. He was a large meat packer. Interesting. Yeah, so I had never heard of Swift as one of the big tycoons of America.
Huh. That's interesting.
I thought it was weird that the GTA thing was mentioned in there too. And then we did GTA last week.
I do not know. It's all crazy stuff.
And Friday, I was talking with, I sent that, we were talking about the Texas thing, Texit, IAM's talking in the chat about Texit. And I guess 23 states have said that they're standing with Texas to support the border. Last I heard, 10 states, including
27.
Oklahoma, had sent National Guard to support and protect the border. And what is also going on is there are sanctions being pushed around. So Barclays is no longer allowed to participate in the bond market in Texas because they wouldn't prove their ESG standing or whatever to in Paxton. And so they got thrown out of so then Jim Willie texted me this morning because I sent him that information on Friday. I said, how does this play into your bond market storyline or scenario? Because he talks about, like, he thinks that's how the bank failures are going to happen, is that the bond market's going to fail. And so he said he's heard that Barclays will announce bankruptcy this week or next.
Wow, that'd be huge. And I agree with him that the bond markets are where the holes are going to start poking themselves in the boat, so to speak. Because right now we've got that Fed backstop that is essentially doing open market style operations, right? Where they take some asset in exchange for some liquidity and they give it to whoever is authorized to borrow from the facility. They're taking all of the long dated government bonds off the hands of these banks as much as they can as they go through this, while still trying to keep the illusion up that they're dropping their balance sheet, right?
Well, that's where I think people don't understand that we are at civil war right now, like with Biden and with Texas. And so Ken Paxton doing that, it's a bankster war with Texas versus the U.S. government. You know what I mean? By saying, hey, Barclays, you can't participate. The banksters can't participate in the Texas bond market. That was a retaliation against, the National Guard standing at the border. So,
yeah.
Well, I think there's it's more like 27 states that are.
Is it 27 now?
Yeah.
There were 24 Republican governors, and there might have been
25, and now there's other states adding to it.
Okay.
But the governor
Kansas sucks, man.
The governor of New York said,
support.
said keep walking to migrants. They said she's super Democrat, and she said, don't come here, keep on walking. She actually said that about the migrants. But it's very weird being here amidst all of it. It's odd that there's all these convoys now coming to Texas because looks like Biden is going to federalize the National Guard, which I didn't really think was allowed.
Yeah.
But something that nobody talks about is that Texas is not, and I'm guilty of it, living here, being in crypto with the international thing. Everyone's like, oh, you're American. Well, I'm like, well, I'm from Texas. Yeah, kind of. It is. Texas is not like any other state. We have the 11th or 9th largest economy by country. Everyone talks about how this huge economic powerhouse Brazil is. Texas's economy is bigger than Brazil. But we're the only country that's ever joined the United States. Hawaii, we did really bad things to get Hawaii as a state. But Texas is the only country that joined. It wasn't, annexed or anything like that. We won a war with Mexico. We were our own country, and we made certain agreements when we, joined the Union. So it's very different.
Who'd you make those agreements with?
With the U.S. government.
Oh, is that a trustworthy entity?
But
I'm surprised. Texas still is inhabited with that agreement. In all truth.
We had a clause that Texas could leave anytime. We could just walk away and go back to being our own republic. But Clinton made us sign that away before we got aid for something. some natural disaster or something that happened on Earth. But what's odd is hearing all these states saying we're sending troops to Texas. It's just very weird. It's very odd. But those troops are actually kind of Trojan horse things. If Biden nationalizes the National Guard, then they're all under his control. Also, I think it's which I talked about with Lisa on our last show, that I think it's much more nefarious if you put your tinfoil hat on, if that happens. And if we're getting towards the election that people say might not happen, at least it doesn't think we're going to have it. If we are under some kind of federalized National Guard, then and Greg Abbott did do something very intelligent when we started all this. I talked about how
leave Texas so that the lieutenant governor's in charge.
He appointed a border czar, just like he mirrored the federal government as far as what they've done as a chain of command. He set up a border czar, and then he appointed the general that was in charge of the troops, and it was all set up. So now, if the National Guard is federalized, then Biden, the administration, whoever's pulling the strings, whatever, can take that general out and put their own general in. But they could do that all over the country. They could put their men in key points of power all over the country for a few months from now. If things go south, if there is some kind of shit hits the fan event or something like that, this is a way that they could, because that's the thing. Everyone says, oh, the military won't just fall in line. They won't do this to their own people. If they're able to do this, and the administration gets control of that entity, that could change the game in the short, long run. Because they could literally set up the National Guard chain of command the way they want to with certain people. But there's convoys coming here from Canada.
Yeah.
Canadians.
They're going to honk too. You guys ready for that? You better be ready. They honk their horns.
They don't have guns. So, but there's a lot of like militia and regular people ready to where it's.
Well, that was why. That's why Trudeau decided that it was a national emergency, right? So loud.
Yeah. Canadians. We could talk about what's going on in Canada too.
Who's the lieutenant governor in Texas?
I forget his name.
It's so weird too, because I Am for Am says he's a Rhino and so is Abbott. And Rhino is Republican in name only, but Republican is only a name too. So it's such a weird world that he's a politician. So
you can't trust a single politician.
Can I tell you? I think Rhino could be a good thing.
I wanted to hear from
Rhino is a good thing because I don't want a party. I don't want a party line. I want someone to do what's right. So if a person says, I'm not going to do what the party says, I'm going to do this and it's what's right.
I wanted to ask you, as a Texan, let me ask you this. I saw someone post that their theory was that it was essentially a push to get Abbott on the VP on the ticket with Trump and just to position him as such. Do you think that's possible, legit? Anything else?
No.
I don't understand why anybody is balking at the notion of securing the freaking border. It wouldn't be that hard. Like, you can get a Ring doorbell for $60. If all you have are enough people to respond to that and turn folks away, you can line the border with Ring doorbells for like less than freaking the cost of any of the big engineering projects that proposed. I mean, all it would take would be a system of drones and people. Yep. And a policy that says turn them away with an application to come in legally.
Mm-hmm.
Like that would be so simple. It wouldn't cost much. I just don't get it. I don't understand.
You think about it. It's like you create, the incentive is obvious. We create a welfare state. It's like you can come here and you can have anything. It's like for one thing, you
Right.
get a free mobile phone, and
Right.
you'll
If you
have
don't have to
food.
be a citizen
But how
to
would
get a
they
driver's
turn
license,
how
why
would
am I
they
getting
turn the
screwed?
children
Can I
over
renounce my
to
citizenship and keep all the same
the
stuff, please?
sponsors that way? How would they
Well,
traffic the children to these sponsors that way?
that's what a lot of it is.
That wouldn't work.
There's a
Right.
lot
I
of
know.
And
We
that's
would
what
have to
they're
stop
really
doing
wanting
that.
to
Wouldn't that
do.
be terrible?
Yeah.
yeah. So, yep. So anyway, what other subjects? What do we have? Because that's a big one, and I'm just waiting. I have no idea what's going to happen, and I hope.
Yeah, I am
Well,
for AM. Is
I
right.
think that's why I put those 2 image links up in the chat.
Okay.
I think this is the thing we all have to worry about is if we give them an excuse to start using this shit on U.S. citizens.
There's one of them.
Yeah, this particular variant of the Hellfire drone or Hellfire missile can be fired from the Reaper drone and not blow up, but instead rather hit the next image. That to just one car.
Yeah.
So and they'll find your cell phone signal. They'll hit you with that thing, and it can be specific enough to just kill the driver, and the passengers survive with serious injuries, right? Like, see that door open where the person got out of the back seat? The driver was dead, but I mean, that shit's scary. They start aiming those at us, and we give them an excuse to aim those at us. They will.
Yep.
Frame says Eagle Pass crossing is at near zero now, which is true, and it's a short period. But when you look at what, like Greg said, how easy it is to stop, we went from having the worst crisis in decades, millions of people coming across, to near zero in like a month. It wasn't very hard, and it was a massive, massive crisis. It was easily stopped. But something I was talking about is that Texas is very different. If you remember when W ran for office and they were accusing him, of skating out of the Vietnam War because he was a pilot for the Texas Air Force, Texas Air Guard.
Yeah.
That has no connection with the National Guard. That has no connection with the federal government. It's a Texas Air Force. And he's a jet pilot. So Texas has jets. It's something that this dude on my Facebook was like talking crap to me. He's like, the U.S. government has an Air Force. I was like, well, Texas has an Air Force. But we also have the Texas Guard, which is not the National Guard. It is a Texas military, which that's not brought up ever for some reason. And I thought that was who was being deployed to the border, not our National Guard, but the Texas Guard. They don't have the newest equipment. It's all older military stuff, but it's a force, and this is the kind of stuff that it was made for. But that's not those troops would not be federalized because they're not the National Guard, which is interesting.
They're not at all the National Guard. Like they're under what are they, militia, or
they're called the Texas Guard.
Yeah, but that's, I mean, they could call it.
Yeah, they're paid by the state, not the federal government. They have their own.
There is, and I've never understood.
Let's not forget the
National
Second
Guard,
Amendment, right? The real force in Texas is everybody who has a gun.
Yeah,
and that's what's weird about the Canadians. They don't have guns. What are they? I mean, like, what are they going to do? I mean, you could buy guns at Walmart. But
anybody who you just hear Biden do that thing where he's like, if you want to resist the U.S. government, you got to have fighter jets or whatever.
Yeah, nuclear
bullshit, man. Look at Afghanistan. We spent 15 years there, and guys with broken AKs were able to outlast us. You can't tell me that the United States citizenry isn't better armed than the tribal Taliban.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about now. Taliban got some cool stuff.
Well, they did get some cool stuff post. Yeah. I mean, yeah, we could probably hope that once the feds invade Texas after they lose the boondoggle, they'll leave all the weaponry behind for us.
It was weird. It's like I'm right next to the largest military base in the world. There's nuclear weapons here.
It's crass.
The government says, I don't know if they still say they're not, but they said they weren't here in the 80s, but everyone knows they are. They're on West Fort Hood. But so whatever happens, this is going to be a really weird place to be.
Plus, Texas has Starbase. Like, you can't tell me that the Elon Musk satellite network won't become an asset of the United Counties of Mega Texas as soon as the split happens.
Oh, let me ask you about this one. So this was a video that came out, and I don't even know anything about her as a politician or anything. But what was interesting is that her campaign, I guess, put out the that attempted bribe.
Gary Lake, yeah.
Yeah. What do you guys think about that? Because I mean, I think I know this happens to all of them, right? And most
that's
what
bothers me is that the casualty of it, and the dude is like, it's like so normal. Oh, yeah. He's like, hey, I'll meet you at your house. He wasn't like scared and like, let's meet in an underground garage. It wasn't like deep throat kind of thing. It was like, hey, and she's like, I'm busy. And she's like, oh, don't worry, only like 5 minutes. We're to offer you a bribe, and it's just the level, and the dude's still in charge of the RNC.
No, he resigned.
Well, yeah, but at that time,
that's the thing. That's the thing, though. Everybody's like, "Oh, he resigned." It's like, why is he not in shackles, awaiting a death penalty for treason?
Why is there still a Democrat Party after what they did to Bernie Sanders and got caught? Why?
No joke.
There's
that's another thing. Before we got started, I was telling Joe I watched the new Wonka movie with my son last night, and there's so many comms in it. It's unbelievable. But that's one of the things they talk about is they show the bribes. They bribe the local police with chocolate.
Nice.
And they show him getting bigger and bigger and fatter where he can't even get out of his car, and then they keep giving, and then they change the chocolate. You guys, you should watch it. It's hilarious because at the end, like, they have they say, thanks, Orange Man, and Orange Man saves them.
Nice.
Wow.
It's funny.
Wow.
That's pretty crazy. Well, I guess the Oompa Loompas are orange, so I mean,
yeah, there's only one in this movie.
Does the
really? How does he sing with? Okay.
So I was looking at that movie with trepidation. I was like, fuck, they made a woke version.
No, it's really good.
I'm so glad.
The Vatican is where they are storing all the chocolate, and they water it down. There's 3 evil guys, and they are watering down the chocolate to keep it from the people. And one of the evil guys, if you even say the word poor people, he goes like starts vomiting if you say poor people, because he can't stand to be around poor people.
Nice.
And he wants to keep all the chocolate from the people, and so they're keeping it all under the Vatican. And then oh gosh, it's hilarious. I could go into I could do a whole show on all the comms on it.
Well, with your recommendation, I will now watch this.
You have to watch it. It's just the newest one called Wonka.
Same. I still, because it has as what the actor who was in Dune, I think. Is that the new one?
Yeah, Timothy Chalamet.
Okay. Interesting.
I also think it's weird how, because we've all been talking, it's also weird how they made a big deal about that movie, Civil War, and like months ago. It's not even coming out until April, and now all this stuff is happening. You know,
argue anything.
What was the other movie that we were going to do a watch party for?
What, Civil War?
Joe,
what was it? What was it? Well, we were going to say with the Milei speech. That was one. But there was something else. We were going to watch a movie, right? Yeah.
We were going to watch a movie together and then comment through the movie. We could do that.
I could easily argue the opposite based on that last meme.
Oh, which one? Which one was it? I just closed
Vitalik one.
I didn't see it.
Oh,
did he really say that?
Yeah, he did.
Yikes! I mean, you could see how out of context he could have just been saying like anyone can argue anything. It could have been an example of like,
I don't know.
Him saying like I can say something obviously gross is true.
I can see him Same.
Because that
maybe.
could mean
God, but-
obviously a gross thing is something I could argue for.
There's another thing I
Easily, but-
thought I wanted to talk
I could
about
flip that
proxy
script now.
wars that I think is very, very crazy. But I think we're so used to proxy wars that talking about the Boogaloo or the Revolution 2.0, Civil War 2.0, whatever, all these other states are like, we can have it with a proxy of just Texas, where no one has to have an actual country civil war. We just use Texas as a proxy.
Dude, how much
yeah.
Russian and Chinese money would flow into Texas instantly if they, like they might become the new France.
Yeah.
Well, I thought all the Chinese money was already in DC.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but I think it would go through.
It's already in DC.
But you think they would side with the DC regime?
They already do.
We're
another
talking
one,
about this new war with Iran and how we have to attack Iran. It's time to blow
So
up Iran,
stupid.
and it's being pushed and pushed and pushed. And they used to say Houthi or Iranian-backed Houthi rebels, Iranian-funded Houthi rebels.
It's a
Now they
profound
don't say
misunderstanding of
rebels.
the politics.
They
of that
say
region.
Iranian forces here. They like dropped the Houthi altogether. I was watching last night.
How is it that fucking nobody's listening to
Hold on,
Scott
here's the
Horton?
thing, that we're talking about attacking Iran. We're saying they're the ones that are funding it. They're the one that sent them the drones. They're the ones that are gave them the weapons. So they're the bad guys. We should be allowed to attack them. I'm
You
like,
believe that? I've got a
I'm like
mask
sitting here
on me,
wondering,
so,
does
yeah.
anyone know what's going on in Ukraine? Has anyone heard about that? Has
No.
anyone heard of what we've sent them? Is Russia coming out and saying it's time for us to blow up Cleveland? Because obviously the United States are saying no. If I don't get how anyone would fall for it, how we should be allowed to attack Iran for them having a proxy war with someone else when it's what everyone does.
This drives me fucking nuts because
Look who
people don't
funds our
understand the
politicians.
politics of
Right.
the region at all. If they think that the Houthis are armed by anything other than the fact that Yemen is the site of the international arms market, like, have you ever seen the beginning of a James Bond movie where he blows up a international arms deal organization? That's in the freaking Yemeni
spy hard too. They have like park jets in the
they don't have to
desert.
get
and they have
weapons
like
from
a
Iran.
market.
They're in their backyard, for fuck's sake. It's nuts. Iran will not denounce them, but they're also not giving them weapons because they don't need to. They were already there.
But they're like, we're attacking the U.S. boats because they're using Israel for a proxy war with the Palestinians, and then we're like, well, we're going to attack Iran because they're using the Houthis as a proxy war for us, and it's all just dumb.
We should not have taught people the word proxy war. Now that's how they're going to justify everything.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, that stuff going on is really crazy. But
It's
just
just the
have to
same
look
fucking
where-
people that were
None
in
of it
Bush's
makes sense
government, man.
for
These
us to
people
be
wanted to
involved.
bomb Iran for years.
None of it. We have no reason to be over there, and yet.
The people in charge right now that they've appointed literally have just been arguing for any excuse to go after Iran for like decades. The idea that this is some new circumstance rather than just a justificatory excuse to do something that they've always wanted to fucking do because they're a bunch of psychotic warmongers who really like to make their friends happy by using up the military stock we already have, right? Can't sell more bombs if you've already got enough. Got to find a place to put them. Like this is that combined with the fact that there are a bunch of narcissistic psychopaths running the military at the very top who just want to see shit blow up and people die, right? And they've just had an issue with Iran ever since they deposed the fucking Shah, which we put in
want
power.
Money for that stuff blowing up. Let's be clear. It's like they want the money.
I hate it
for that blowing up that
When
stuff.
cause
And they
another
want the blood
9/11, this is the
sacrifice.
fucking
I know
way.
some of them profit on the money side, some of them profit on the blood side, but that's what it all is.
They're going to cause another 9/11. This is going to be more blowback.
Pause. Wait, who did 9/11?
The Saudis, probably. Or at least actually forces funded by the Saudis.
All right, Lisa,
that
who
we
did
also
9/11?
helped create. The
Lisa, who did
Mujahideen
9/11?
did that.
We did.
Okay. Sean, who did 9/11?
It wasn't plain. It was not.
All right. That's an interesting. We should do that more often. That was pretty. I would say I will tell you who but only in private, and I will. Be
Oh, so we have to answer here, but you.
I don't know if you guys were totally honest, or is there anything you would have said that I'll say it. I'll just say it right now because I probably retweeted it already. It's like Israel with some combination of the CIA covered up by the FBI.
Okay,
Right.
I agree.
I think it
with
probably
you.
comes down.
Mossad
Go ahead.
involved.
It's.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at why, what happened afterwards.
Because wasn't it to
all
protect
follows.
more protecting Hillary and all
Well,
that?
if I remember when it happened, because I remember being a little kid, and when they wanted to take a building down, it's all very primitive. They used to take a crane with a big metal ball and beat the shit out of a building and break it apart. And it was messy and it took a long time. And the engineers came up with this super precise technology where they could blow up certain parts of a building and have it collapse in on itself.
Yeah.
It was like magic. It was unbelievable. And you can't just have planes hit something.
You're
hit
saying
a
that
building and it comes
couldn't help with
perfectly
beams.
implodes like that. And then what did it for me is that to do when I learned exactly how that the beams have to be. I thought they just blew them up, but they have to be cut in a certain diagonal pattern to where everything slides in and it implodes on itself. And when there's all the workers cleaning up, there's all of the beams with these diagonal freaking cuts, man. It's like, oh, well, that's obvious to anyone. And everyone's like, well, you can give someone absolute proof. And then like, well, I don't know. Well, yeah. You could say, hey, I'm not saying the election was stolen, but there's weird stuff that happened. And there was like 180 million votes, and there's only 157 million registered voters. So that doesn't make sense. That's something that needs to be looked into. Something's wrong. Well, no, that's it. Something's wrong. You have to admit something's wrong. You could talk about everyone loved Obama, everyone loved Trump. People hated Obama, people hated Trump. Nobody cared about Joe Biden.
Well, and we have to stop. Yeah, we can't just let it keep happening.
He got more votes than Obama. You know what I mean? That doesn't make sense, but it's not proof. It's not math. It's not it's not factual. Factually, more people voted than were registered to vote. That's weird and should be looked into. And then it's like, well, no. Let's stick to the stuff we can argue about.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah.
Well,
I still think that the people ultimately in power, are the small number of the aristocracy from England. If you're the one to look at who's benefiting here, they probably bear last names like Rothschild, and Vanderbilt, and names like that. People who come from old world Bank of England Board of Governors control type of stuff.
I've been saying it my whole life.
I think those people
don't understand it or don't get it. Having grown up in Europe, there's the aristocracy is very real, and they say they've taken on a different role where they're more
former Habsburgs,
philanthropists, like they're our Bill Gates and that kind of thing. That's how people look at the aristocracy in Europe. They're rich, but they just use their money for good.
Right, and they've had centuries to come to an understanding of how power works. Right?
Yes.
Bill Gates is pathetically new money by comparison.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just trying to get, because people don't understand. People think the aristocracy is gone. It's like,
you guys ever see the Onion
little hidden
clip
behind.
on the Nouveau Pour? The Nouveau Pour is
the Nouveau Pour.
It was hilarious. It was very good. What else? I don't know. There's so much that happened this.
If anybody wants to find a really good listing of people who are in power who never get mentioned, check out wikispooks.com.
Oh, yeah.
They have a list of known members of the Atlantic Council. They have a list of known members of the Transatlantic Security Council. Like these people are the ones who are really running the show.
The
If you wanna find out.
Arabella Advisors. Have you heard of them?
Yeah.
That is the group that was. They're a bunch of billionaires or whatever that have been screwing with our elections forever, and they're all these like global billionaires. And they're also who's like backing Nikki Haley and
Ugh.
all that kind of stuff. It's very interesting. If you look into Arabella Advisors and who's
Interesting.
who's in.
This is a
involved
funny
with that.
meme. This is very well done. Very simple meme.
Hold on, I can't see you.
Gross.
It's horrible. It's a horrible, but it's very funny. Anyway,
That's terrible.
I guess you'd put me at a 5.
it's horrible stuff. Anyway, I don't know.
There's like normal people who like kids because kids are the future of humanity. Where's that on the scale? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't even know. Yeah, it's that's maybe it's more. It's a timeline, right? So or it's a line. It's not. There's not any
AI
more
video is
dimensions.
awesome.
Was it this show or something else I did? I think it was I Am for I Am brought it up with Land of the Lost and all of the stuff in it. There's the lizard people, the crystals.
The lizard people, by the way, were the slee stacks.
Flea stacks, right? The lizards, the Slee stacks. The one Slee stack was the evil guy, but everyone thought he was good. And then I was talking about the light guy. It was who scared the crap out of me. I still get nervous thinking about it. But the crystal pylons, the portals, all that stuff was like so, like it, classified CIA stuff that's come out now. This week has been really weird for me.
I heard Saudi Arabia or Saudi joined BRICS yesterday. Did anybody
Really?
hear that or get confirmation on that?
I thought they just offered to sell in whatever denomination.
Their first transaction was a couple of weeks ago, like
right.
that. But I don't know.
I knew that, but I think that yesterday supposedly it was like full on joining BRICS. So I don't have.
I read about that.
I don't doubt it. I know that it's on and away. That's what they get it too. I think they're probably tired of dealing with the way that our government works, right?
$50 trillion.
Yeah. So
South African on Bloomberg, it says 10 hours ago, South African's foreign minister says Saudi Arabia and 4 other countries have accepted the invitation to join the BRICS Club of Nations that was extended during a summit last year.
Huh.
Yep.
So,
wow.
Yep.
Well, good.
Per Bloomberg.
These are market consequences for the way that
because of BRICS and those market
United States
consequences
has managed the dollar. They deserve everything they're getting there.
African countries have gotten massive balls and are standing up, like in the United Nations,
right?
Places, and they're like, "Hey guys, the tide's changing."
Right? They're like, we get finance. England, France, pretending like we don't.
You guys, guys are about to get in serious trouble,
right?
Because they're it's like we've all known the money.
They're not joining either side.
The money.
They're starting their own side.
They're starting to get their own. They're part of the cool kids now.
Right. Problem that I heard this really well articulated once. The problem with our foreign policy is we play it like it's a game of chess, where every single individual move matters more, and in reality, it's more like a giant multiplayer game of Go. And we battle over tiny little regions while we play chess over individual squares, right? And the rest of the world is operating more on this game of Go standard where we lose sight of the big picture.
Go back, Joe. Weed smokers was a religion.
That's why we ultimately will get hosed if we keep playing the game.
Weed smokers was a religion. Go back.
Yeah.
Upper right corner.
Weed smokers. I can't see the bowl there. It's funny because you can look agnostic, decent amount of money.
Jewish people atheist, have no money.
Christian, Muslim, pagan, Buddhist, Jewish.
Yeah,
I
no money in the
guarantee
weed
you
smokers or the Jewish people. It looks like. Or the,
Yeah,
oh, the,
they should have. They really should have. He should have posted the results of this because I would like to know.
Yeah.
And by the way, it's a brilliant. I think it's if you ask me, a pretty brilliant way to beg.
Yeah, if he had one bowl, there would be a ton of money in there, man. He would look like he's pretty well off.
Yeah, I love it. Oh man! All right, so we're at 1:45. You guys want to stop here? What do you think? While we're ahead, before we say something that gets us banned. Huh?
We've long that train sailed a long time ago.
Yeah. So I mean, it's it's all for the betterment, for the in fact, for the goodwill towards men and women, everything. So
absolutely.
All right. So I guess okay. Let's just I will pull off the memes. Hopefully, I didn't offend anyone with the memes. They're kind of unprocessed, unfiltered.
I thought memes. That was the point.
The point with a meme is to get an idea into someone's head as efficiently as possible.
Yeah, but isn't to break their mind a little bit, like to
not
break
being unintentionally cringe.
Yeah,
yeah, and it's humor is one of the. It's almost like you have a writer, like what do you call it? Like you put the medicine in something that can be digested, or you put put an idea into something that will, as a carrier, maybe that's the way to call it.
Yeah,
it's like my idea will essentially make its way into your mind, and then like, oh,
it connects a new situation to a known pattern,
right?
And usually it's funny because that's the carrier. Sometimes it's profound, sometimes it's pretty, sometimes it's interesting.
Sometimes it's barf out loud disgusting.
Yes, sometimes it's disgusting, right? So yes, nice. Thank you very much. I have a guitar tie on today.
Oh yeah,
anyway, not that it matters. Let's see here. Oh, and this. Okay, I'm gonna show one more. This one is interesting. The last meme for today. Apparently true. A frog account successfully negotiated with the Taliban to secure the safety of Spanish diplomats because the government failed at it. The beauty of memes, the power of memes, and people who use them. And I guess it's really true that this, it was a frog account. So it's a beautiful thing.
That's the shit.
I love it.
That is
Is
so
that
fantastic.
a real article?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So sort of like the other day when did you guys see the interview with Cat Turd on Tucker Carlson's show?
He blocked me,
What? I haven't seen it, but I
Cat Turd blocked you?
He blocked me.
That's too bad.
Yeah, I was capturing all of his stuff for history's sake on Eternal. That's all it was doing. It's like he would tweet stuff, and
he just didn't want it recorded permanently. Gotcha.
I don't know. I think he probably thought I was a troll or something.
He probably thought you were setting him up for.
And I hate using the term of I'm Generation X. I hate differentiating the age thing, but there is something to it that I think he just thought, oh, who is this person who's in this blockchain thing? It's like,
right. Even though you meant it as a compliment,
why you block me? Yeah, it's horrible.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because who was it that got in a shouting match with him?
I don't know.
Like some politician got in a shouting match with Cat Turd online, like really got emotional about it. Like an all caps reply to something he said. It's like, where
I used to think the funniest thing about it is when he would say something
kind of awesome.
He would say something real, something worth knowing, an interesting insight, but then he'd end it with a fart sound on the tweets. I don't know if he still does that because I'm blocked, but I always thought that was pretty funny.
If we can have a situation in the world where governments can fail to negotiate peace, and frog accounts can, and a warmongering neocon can say something shitty, and Cat Turd responds, and it gets their goat in a way that reveals how vicious this person is at heart.
Yeah.
Then we are moving towards a world A that is better, and B that doesn't need to justify the need for anonymity in speech.
Yep.
Or a state, or a place where a state can take care of its own security better than the federal government can.
There you go.
In like 2 weeks.
Yep, that's pretty cool.
Versus what, 2-3 years?
It's pretty obvious the system's purposely broken for several reasons. I mean, I can't remember. I saw an interview, a very old interview recently that popped up that was on Trump talking about his that skating rink that he put in, where the government spent like
Yeah.
$15 million, and over many years they couldn't actually make it work. They put it in, it broke, it didn't actually ice over all that. Then he comes in, and I think he's like for a couple $100,000 or 400,000, did it in 4 months, something like that. And that pissed him off, right?
They're engaged in. They're like, well, we got to solve this problem.
Yeah.
Well, Joe, you've always made the point that
$10 billion worth of government
purpose of
contracts to
government
DARPA so we can figure out how to
make
Zamboni
sure that
this.
they continue to exist.
Yeah.
You know, and I think maybe the border crisis was that, and it got away from them.
Oh yeah.
Like, we want this bigger. We want more money. Let's let it get screwed up. And like, oh my God.
Well, you think about it.
Blowing up in our face.
You have the lobby from you know that several non-government organizations are paying several politicians to try to keep that. There's also the human trafficking, tons of profit. Also the drug trafficking, obviously tons of. By the way, in that that bribery conversation, one of the more interesting things was that and we played it last week, right? I forgot we played it, but that he actually called out that there are cartels operating in all 50 states. It's obvious as a threat, and she brings up, oh, they're going to kill me. Like, jeez, that's pretty ridiculous. And, Seth Rich, look into Seth Rich and who they think actually took him out. We lost Greg. Okay. So hopefully he'll come back and he can tell us. It'll be, let me know if I don't bring him back in. Sean, this week, what should we know about? What's going on?
Got a new show where we're just hanging out playing poker and trying different gaming sites, which has been fun. Check out me and Lisa on Tuesdays for Truth Tuesday. Also, found out this week Lord of the Rings is real. That Middle Earth was us. It's very weird. Everything I thought was taught about Neanderthals was completely wrong. They're orcs. They weren't really just regular humans with brows. That hobbits existed, but we called them pygmies. And all of South America was that's where the hobbits were. Crazy stuff, which I want to talk about, but it's we don't really have time. That humans were pretty much hunted to extinction, and then we went underground. There's a city under in Israel that has like support 20,000 people, livestock, everything. Big underground.
You sure it's not Cappadocia?
What?
Turkey?
That's it, Turkey. Yeah.
Cappadocia.
20,000 people. That's where we flourished. We didn't kill the Neanderthals, which I was always told. There was a cataclysmic event, and we just came out of the ground as victors, which was crazy. But I guess we don't want to talk about that.
Well, there's also a massive freshwater sea that's
Next time.
segregated from all of the world's water systems trapped into the Sahara.
I didn't know. So, okay, Greg, what's up then? What's next? What's going on this week?
What's up with me? I would say, right now we are entering a. Aside from the fact that Rivet's rocking along, right? Like we're going to be announcing support for a new network soon that's designed to support NFT related interactions.
Can we speculate on what it is?
I can't say it yet, but it sounds like it's a word that's analogous to explosions. So if you want to go hunt it down, I'm sure you can find it really easily. It's not blam, but it's close.
Is it Fartcoin?
No, it's not. It's not Fartcoin. We're not that cool yet.
Okay.
But Decentralized Infrastructure Network project is marching along well.
Excellent.
We will be at ETH Denver talking about it. So if anybody wants to meet us up there and check it out, I'm happy to tell more in person. Outside of that, I just want to remind everybody to go to wewantjusticeDAO.org and donate to the cause of Alexei Pertsev and Roman Storm, who are right now in the crosshairs of the United States government for creating Tornado Cash, an autonomous golem who is now a person apparently that they put on the OFAC registry, that basically forbids anyone from the United States of quote doing business with this particular open source software. This is their backdoor attack to roll back the victory that the cypherpunks had in the 90s with open source code being free speech. So donate to that fight. For fuck's sake, donate to that fight, because if we don't, then the next computer program to go on the OFAC persona non grata list could be your favorite program.
Horrible. All right, Lisa, what's going on?
I would tell everybody. So last week I went on Dragon Chain, or what's it called? Dragon Chain Legal Fund.org.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And gave a Litecoin. And I think everybody should go do that. And it's super easy to do. They've got tons of addresses there. If they don't have your coin, you can request for them to give you an address for whatever coin you want to give. But it's a great way to support and feel like you're like part of the fight. So if you want to get in the fight and feel like you've had enough, go support Dragon Chain's fight.
It'll never be forgotten. So thank you for that.
It's on the chain forever that you were in the fight.
Yep. If you donate an absurd amount, I will in fact give away NFTs and get tattoos on my face.
There you go,
Greg.
You just have to propose it, and it can happen.
You didn't say permanent tattoos.
Right.
So that's what I would tell everybody to go do. Also, we have a new coupon for the Mighty Merchants coming out today because it's February. So you can go to litecoinlisa.net and click on shop with me to find out that information. And then we'll have happy hour tomorrow. Alpha Warrior wasn't able to join last week. So I'm hoping he can join this week.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. So for me, I want to come and play poker because I have not gotten to play poker since I lived on the East Coast with anyone. I played with the kids.
It's frustrating with Lee because he's an idiot. He gets drunk. He doesn't listen to me. And whenever he listens to me,
half the fun of playing poker is just the interactions, right? And it's like I care more about. It's like trying to.
We'll go to a table and it's insane the augmented reality of these things. He's like, no, this is a dude. I want a girl. It's like, dude, you're such a rube. It's like you have to lose money every time you go to a real casino. Because he's like an old man clicking on all the pop-ups. Like, no, let's go over here. No, it's like, no, that's a bad. Don't go there. That's where everyone. Yep, they were just lost. It's like, go here. Let's double down. I was like, don't double down. I want to split it. Don't split it. Now you double down, and then whenever he listens to me, we win.
That's good. Okay, that's good to know. Yeah. I'll remember that. I'm gonna come on there. I'm gonna sneak my way on there. I'm just gonna show up.
Sneak. You're anytime.
Whenever I play, I just like to bull in a China shop my way into the situation by doing things that nobody should ever do, throwing the strategy of the game off entirely.
That's fun.
It's fun to watch other people try to play poker when there's a wild card who doesn't play in his own self-interest very, very readily.
I'm hoping that we'll be able to come down your way to the eclipse in April, right? So just remember we need to think about that. How because I know Dave was talking about it. I know some like Jacob Wayne is in I think San Antonio, right? So we were thinking maybe we meet down there. The other thing I just did, I've not done this for a long while, but I did an interview with Larry Sanger, founder of Wikipedia. We're gonna broadcast it next week. It's very, very plain Jane, just simple, like an hour and a half of stuff, but he had a whole bunch of stuff I did not know about the early Wikipedia, what went wrong, about a bunch of what he's doing now and all that.
We're running out of time.
Is that on Dragon Chain?
It'll be on Dragon Chain. It will be probably next week. We'll just
cool. You should come back on here one of these days. I'd like to say.
I'm sure he will. He's awesome. He's a great guy. Very, very stand-up person. Yeah, so, all right. So that is it, and we're going to exit with.
Thanks for watching, everybody.
I can't remember. Thank you for watching. Yeah, make sure you follow. Make sure you retweet.
Notifications on. Highest volume.
Let's see here. I'm going to play this one.
While nuclear weapons states can exert unlimited violence over even millions of individuals, strong cryptography means that a state, even by exercising unlimited violence, cannot violate the intent of individuals to keep secrets from them. cryptography as the ultimate form of nonviolent direct action.